After the flood, humanity gathered on a plain and built a tower to reach the heavens, to make a name for themselves. God came down, confused their language, and scattered them across the earth. And out of that scattered, confused, idol-worshipping world, God reached into one family and called one man by name. Please welcome Abram.
Men have called me faithful. I have wondered many times if they knew the whole of the story.
Let's start with where you came from.
Ur of the Chaldeans, a great city, prosperous, sophisticated, and my father's house served other gods. The moon, the stars, carved things on a shelf. That is the air I breathed as a boy. The God who called me was not the God of my father's table.
So when he called you, you weren't searching for him?
No, I was not seeking him. My father's house had its gods, its ways, its names for heaven. Then the living God spoke, and everything I had called certain became small.
What did he say?
Go. Leave your country, your people, your father's house, and go to a land that I will show you.
A land he would show you. He didn't tell you where.
No, he did not name the place. He said, go, and I will show you when you arrive. I had to set out not knowing the end of the first day's walk. Leave everything I knew before he would tell me where I was being led.
And you went?
I went, but not cleanly. My father was with us. Lot was with us. The old house had long shadows. I thought obedience would be like stepping through a door. It was more like crossing a wilderness. Step by step, God separated me from what I had known.
What did he promise you?
That he would make me a great nation. That he would bless me and make my name great. That through me all the families of the earth would be blessed. Hear how that fell on me. I was old. My wife's body had never carried a child. And he spoke to me of a nation, of the whole earth blessed through my children. And I had no child, not one.
What do you do with a promise that big, when your tent is still quiet?
Some days you carry it well. Some days it carries heavier than a man can say.
Tell me about Egypt.
Yes, the land dried up. There was famine, and we went down into Egypt to live. And Sarai, my wife, was beautiful. I was afraid the men there would kill me to take her. So I told her to say she was my sister. It was half true. She was my half-sister. I put my wife in danger to keep myself alive.
God protected her.
He did. He reached in where I had failed. He kept Sarai, and Pharaoh sent us away. And this was not the last time fear would find that place in me. God was faithful in it. I was not.
After Egypt, you and Lot separated.
The land could not feed both our households. Our herdsmen quarreled over wells and grass. So I told Lot, choose. Take whatever land you want, and I will go the other way. I let the younger man choose first. He looked at the well-watered plain toward Sodom and took it. The better ground, by every eye that could see. And I took what was left. Years before, I might have fought him for it. I might have grasped for the best portion myself. But I was learning something slowly. What God gives does not depend on my hand seizing it.
Not long after, Lot found himself in trouble.
A coalition of kings swept through the region. Lot was taken captive, along with all the people of Sodom. When word reached me, I gathered the men born in my household and went after them.
You went after an army.
I went after my nephew. By night, we struck them. The captives were recovered. Lot came home.
And on your way back, you met someone unusual.
Yes, Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of God Most High. He came out with bread and wine. He blessed me, and he blessed the God who had delivered my enemies into my hand.
You gave him 1/10 of everything.
I did. The victory was not mine to claim. God had given it.
The king of Sodom offered you the spoils.
And I would not take them. I had lifted my hand before God and sworn it. I would keep nothing for myself, down to the last thread and sandal strap. No one would ever say a king of Sodom had made Abram rich. If I was to be blessed, the blessing would come from God's hand alone.
And then came one of the most important nights of your life.
Yes, my heart was troubled. The promise still had no child in it. I said to God, "What will you give me? I go on childless, and a servant of my house will be my heir." And he took me outside, into the night, and he said, "Look up, count the stars if you can. So shall your offspring be." I looked until my eyes could hold no more of them. And I knew this: the one who made those lights was not poor in power. If he said my seed would be like them, then my wife's barrenness was not the final word.
That one line, Abram believed God. People will come back to it for centuries, as if everything about faith is hidden inside it.
I had no son in my tent, only his word. And that night, his word was enough. I believed him, and somehow that was what he wanted.
And yet, not long after that night, you took matters into your own hands.
Yes, that is the part hardest to speak of. I had stood under those stars and believed, and then the years kept passing, and Sarai's body stayed closed. And she came to me with her servant, Hagar.
And because it was Sarai saying it, it didn't feel like rebellion.
It came with her grief in it, with her tears, with reason. Such things were done among our people. A barren wife might give her servant, and the child would be counted in the house. It looked like a door standing open. Perhaps, I thought, this is the road by which God will keep his word. But I was not waiting for the road he would show me. I was making one of my own.
And Hagar conceived.
She did. And from that day there was no peace in my tents. Hagar looked on Sarai with contempt. Sarai turned her bitterness on me. There was strife under my roof. Hagar fled into the wilderness, and God himself met her there and sent her back. And she bore my son, Ishmael.
How do you feel about Ishmael?
He is my son. I have watched him grow. I have taught him to walk the land, to know the flock, to read the sky. And I love him with everything in me. I love him, and I want to believe he is the promise.
The father of faith, who left without a map, believed God under the stars, and stumbled more than once along the way. But his is not the only voice in this story. There was a woman who waited just as long, who carried the barrenness in her own body, who made a decision that changed everything. Next time we hear it from her, Sarah joins us. Subscribe and come back.